So I'm Julian Cennamo, and I believe my name is actually supposed to be pronounced Cennamo, but everyone knows me as Cennamo, so we'll just keep it at Cennamo. So I was born here in Columbus in 1980, and I owe my dedication to art actually to my grandmother. She was an artist, and she introduced me to the Columbus Museum of Art, and I fell in love with Van Gogh and drawing. And in fact, I would actually get in trouble all the time throughout my grade school career for drawing when I should have been working on my classwork. Fortunately, my grandmother, she enrolled me in Saturday morning art classes at CCAD in 1993. And that's where I really felt like I fit in. So that I realized that was the place for me. And coming here to the city, it was fascinating to me because I lived in this rural community at the time, and here I was in this bustling city, and everyone seemed so neat, and everything about it just really struck me, and so it seemed like the right thing for me. But when I got old enough to go to college, I actually didn't have the grades to make it into art school. So don't tell anyone, because if you know what I do now, that should be a secret. So I didn't actually do that well in high school. So I started going to a local community college, and I studied with Shun Endo, and he's a Japanese artist. He was an immigrant, and I really fell in love with the way he emphasized cross-hatching and the use of line. That worked really well for me. So this is actually his drawing that's in the middle. That's not mine. Then the piece on the right, that's a piece I did around that time where I used the style that he taught me. And then the piece on the left was a painting that I did in his class. It's like a mixed media collage piece with the cigarettes and smoking and kind of the disgusting feeling of it. And so we did that together. And you can see I actually used the camel cash in this piece all the way back then. This is around 2000, 2001. But but my dedication paid off. So now that I enjoyed school, and I was even exhibiting my work, I exhibited with Getaway Gallery in Grandview, which was also a guitar shop. Unfortunately, it's not around anymore. I wish it was. I always had a really good time there. And I had this great move to the city, which was a big and fascinating change for me because I'd lived in this rural town for most of my life. So now here I was in the city. And also I was very fortunate to find mentorship, which is what I really needed. So I found that through Christopher Yates and Neil Riley and Matt Kloss. So Matt Kloss, he really built my efficacy, and what I took from him was he really emphasized geometry and working directly. So once he got me to do that, I just really ran away with it. So here, these are some pieces of the ones on the bottom are all the city. So this is on the very left-hand side here. This is Baton Hall, which was part of CCAD at that time. Now it's part of the Columbus Museum of Art. Now it's their administrative offices. So this is so the curators are actually up here now, and then the HR is actually over there. But these were classrooms, and these are actually the same classrooms that I had attended classes when I was a child. So it was really great that I got the opportunity to paint that. So this is actually what it looked like with a desk and a sink here as a classroom. And this is a view from one of the windows in Baton Hall. So you can see the geometry of this cityscape. And then this is from my apartment building at that time, which unfortunately no longer exists. And then this building here, the Cynic Hotel, that was actually abandoned at that time. And now it's like the apartment built like a luxury apartment building in that same area, which is hard for me to believe. But so in 2011, I began working at the Columbus Museum. And by this time, I'd actually moved back into my childhood home after my father had passed away. And at the museum, I met Brian Moss, and he really convinced me to get the art bug again and get it going again. I had been exhibiting through Canal Winchester Art Guild, and I had been teaching through AmeriCorps, but he really got me to step it up and get the art bug again. So I discovered George Ennis and Ralph Blakelock again, and started making a new body of work in their style. So this is a photo. This is actually at the Motorist Gallery. So it kind of looks like it's at the art museum because it's with the marble walls, but it's actually at the Motorist Mutual Gallery. So that's it was the Motorist building, and they got bought out, and I forget what they changed it to, but it's that big black skyscraper that's right across the street from the museum and CCAD. So I'm sure you've seen it before. I forget what it's called now. Is that what it is? Yeah, in Cova, the Incova building. Of course, I was seeing a lot of artwork, and I always really enjoyed contemporary art. So when we had the Art and Money exhibition in 2015 at the Collage Museum, that really influenced me to maybe move on into some more contemporary work and experiment some more. So these were the first collage pieces that I did around that time. This is 2015, 2016. So started with camel cash, and this is actually the very first one. I think this is the second one, the third one. So a lot of this is it's just satire and play, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So, and then I also began teaching. So I was a member of AmeriCorps, and that's when I really took to mentoring youth. And I discovered that my gift was something that I needed to share with other people. It was uplifting for me, it was uplifting for them. So I was fortunate that White House Memorial is a local library. They were looking for an artist to offer lessons. So I took that on, and that led me to being hired by Canal Winchester High School, which is still completely surreal for me because I was the greatest student ever, right? So I got to come back as a teacher. So what am I inspired by? So the landscape work, it's really about nature and a sense of place. That's the only way I really know how to describe it. I think it comes from growing up in this rural area and having enjoyed that throughout my life and the changing seasons, and just that, I find that very beautiful. So that's what inspires me, and I know that's what inspired George Ennis and Ralph Blakelock and Van Gogh and so many other landscape painters. So I wish I had a longer explanation to give you, but that's the only way I know how to describe it. And then for the collages, so they're more about play and satire. So I might just go into the studio instead of, with doing landscape painting, the light has to be right and the time has to be right. So you have to you would see it and you have to really do it then. You can try to sketch it or take a photo and all this and that, but it never really does it justice. But with this, I could just go into my studio and play around and have fun. So I really got into that. So sometimes I'm doing the same thing with, so I'm doing like the landscape thing traditionally, but I'm trying to give a more contemporary spin on it with collage, and then other times it's more satirical. So I actually started using camel cash, which so back in the 90s, early 2000s, they had, if you smoke Camel cigarettes, and I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but they would have, it was Camel Joe. I don't know if you remember Camel Joe. So they had the Camel Joe dollars, and then of course that was smoking to minors. So they had to get rid of Camel Joe, but they kept the point system and they changed the design. I'll show you that here in a moment. So I thought, and they're actually a collector's item. So I thought that I'm using this collector's item to make collector's items. That was a really fun idea for me. But a friend suggested Monopoly Money, and not only did I discover it had great colors, but of course it had a lot of tradition and symbolism. The problem I run into this kind of work though is just how tedious it is, because it takes just as long to make this little tiny 4x6 collage as it does to make a huge oil painting. So it's very tedious. I purchased the Monopoly Money and the Camel Cash on eBay. The Camel Cash used to be less expensive than paint. It's not anymore. So in a way, it's cost me. But the Monopoly Money isn't very expensive at all, and you can just buy it in individual pieces, and it's a lot less expensive than paint. So for this exhibition, I'm showcasing my most recent work and my best work, what I feel most confident about. And I'm showing both my paintings and collages, because I never really gave up on painting. So the first piece that I did out of this, that's on exhibit in this exhibition, is the winter nocturne piece. So there was a snowfall in 2015, and I just went out and sat in my car and sketched it, and then I originally made this drawing that was on the left, which has sold and parted with me, and then I did this painting around that time. It was the very last one I did before I started doing the collage series. So I started my collage series, and so I realized I needed to confront that problem right away, where it was taking so long to make one of these collage pieces, as opposed to I could make this huge painting in the same amount of time. So I figured, well, why not just try to blow up the painting, especially since I was looking at Picasso at the time, because we had the Picasso exhibition at the museum, and I noticed a lot of times that Picasso, he was working with paint, but he would reference collage, so he'd have all these lines, and that was with cubism, and he was kind of using the same idea. So I thought that would be kind of fun. And then this piece, it actually, I don't think anyone's ever picked up on this, but it actually uses the same composition from the seal of the state of Ohio. And then this on the left, this is one of the designs that they changed the camel cache to. So instead of it being green, it was kind of this white and yellow and blue color. So I used that, and then I blew it up to this large acrylic painting here. And then for the camel, actually, I originally had it so it was all the yellow color you can see right here. But then when I looked at it from the back, I thought the way that it looked from the back side was more interesting, especially the way that you could see the letters and the design that was on the back of it. So I thought that was more interesting than the way it looked on the front. So I went with that, and I feel this is one of my favorite pieces that I've done, actually. I feel very confident about this one. And then this is another one I did where I took that original collage that I had done, and I blew it up large for this piece that you can't see very well because it's behind the monitor. And it satires the Cleveland Museum. So kind of the Cleveland Museum and the Columbus Museum kind of have that same entranceway with the Art Deco architecture. And then I saw in an article that the Cleveland Museum was taxing cigarettes to help for free admission, which is a great idea. Tax it, good idea. But I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do satirically. So I did this large scale piece, and the Eagle's Nest too. So this piece explores. This is more. This piece isn't very rooted in satire. It's more. This is more of just trying to do a traditional landscape with a contemporary theme. So using the Monopoly money instead of paint, and trying to do it large, trying to get larger than this little 10 by 12 or 4 by 6 thing. So the money tree. So the idea here is this one's more satire. So it's capitalism is a debt-based system. So that's what the satire is of. And then circling, that's the same idea. So it's circling, it's capitalism is a debt-based system. So it kind of makes. So these are vultures that are circling around, because that's the cycle of capitalism. So the red barn. So this one's more of a blend. So it blends a traditional landscape with satire, and that's why this vulture is here. So the fox and the hawk. So this piece is more pure satire. So the fox is in economics. That's a metaphor for making fiscal cuts or cutting stimulus, whereas the eagle is a metaphor for stimulus. So the idea is that the fox, he's hunting the eagle, and then they're actually in this field it's blooming. They're beautiful flowers, but at the same time they're actually noxious weeds. So that was my idea for this one. And then Alabaster in the spring. So I was outside this past spring, and I saw this, and the light was perfect, and I knew I had to paint it. And then my cat, of course, came out, and I knew that that was a perfect thing to add, so I added that. And then the very last piece. So this is after the storm, and This is the most recent. I've done a whole series of pieces. They're of a farm, what was a farm property that's close to where I live, and it's being developed now. So there was this house here, and it was torn down. And George Leach, the owner of the gallery, he painted a piece of this with the same scene from a slide for a Leslie Cope slide that he had. I'm not sure what the exact date is, but it's from many days ago with the same tree and this same building here. So I thought that would be so. So this is kind of this in this most recent one. The tree has actually fallen down, and the tree when they sold this property for that last time, they actually stipulated that they can't cut this tree down, and then nature took it down. So in this piece, it's very influenced by Van Gogh. So you can see that's what the idea with this brushwork here and these colors and this illuminating light, and so that's the idea with this one. So that's all I have. Are there any questions or comments? No.
I have a question about the camel
Mm-hmm.
there. What are the black rectangles?
Oh, these?
Yeah.
That's so if you look at this, if you look at the original one, so they're a lot bigger here than they are in this original, but they're this logo here that's in blue on the camel cache. So I just blew it up a little bit bigger. I just use that design element a little bit more. Yeah, could be. Matt.
Could you maybe walk us through the process a bit of creating the different pieces that you use for your collage work? Like, how do you get started with an idea and then decide, okay, how am I going to shape these different pieces that I need to put together to create this composition? Do you think you can maybe walk us through that a little?
It's just a lot of play and trial and error. So I would spend a lot of time just cutting up these pieces, and then maybe I would have some sort of reference drawing or photo. And I would spend a lot of time just cutting up these pieces and moving them around and seeing how they work together, and then putting them together. And that's usually how it goes. So I'll have a sketch, and then I'll just start cutting it up and playing around with it and seeing how it fits together, which is a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun for me. That's what what a lot of it is. It's just playing around, experimenting, and seeing what it does. Especially because when I started doing these pieces, I didn't really have a guide. I just kind of had to figure it out myself and use what I already know about art, my experience with painting, and as an art student to figure out how it works. Especially with the Monopoly money, more so than the camel cache.
Is it a lot of scissor work or razor blade on a mat? What are some of the tools you use?
It's just an X-Acto knife on a piece of cardboard, and it's just a lot of tedious cutting, cutting all these small pieces and putting them together, coming up with layers and that sort of thing.
Your skewed angle view intrigues me, like it's very sort of vertigo inducing, like that, like how the ground leans that way. That one behind you, and like even that, I sort of.
I'm sorry, that's your glasses.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, no, I think it's a good part of it.
Well, yeah, I noticed that too.
Oh.
I'm not an artist, but I live with one. There's one thing you said that kind of interested me, because I'm interested in the magic, but you were talking about that piece right there, and you said you made a point of saying that that's one that you feel very confident about, and I'm kind of interested in about what that feeling is like and how you know that you're at that point?
When I look at this one, I don't feel like there's anything about it that I want to change. When I look at a lot of these other ones, I just got, maybe not so much in this exhibition, but just going back through the pieces to make, just make this slideshow. It's like, oh wow, I wish I had changed that, or I had done that differently. But with this, I don't get that feeling. It's like, well, this is definitely the best I could have done with this.
I think I get that. I mean, because if you're going from the visual arts, let's say to poetry, you reach to a point. Usually when I'm writing something, I want to change it every day. I'm never happy with it. Every once in a while, there's something that you can't do anything with, and I think that's similar to maybe what you're saying on that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah, because Picasso always said, if you know when your work's done, you're a genius. I can't convince my students that. Yeah.
What's your next move after the Monopoly money? Have you thought about what your next meeting's gonna be?
I think I'm going to keep working with the collage the way that I am now, but I really want to get back to painting more. It's just, I think it's because the collage is so tedious, and you have to really I have to dedicate more time to it than painting. It probably doesn't sound very good to say out loud, but with the time that I have now that I can dedicate to art, I feel like I could do more with painting. But I will have some new collage pieces in the Thumbbox show that's coming up. So
I love the Monopoly money. I think that's genius.
thank you.
One last thing is all the other artist talks have cried, so I just want to say that like you made it through your talk without having cried. Everybody else cried during your talk.
Thank you.
well, yeah, if we would have done this on a Wednesday.
Well, I'm used to talking in front of people. I'm just not used to them paying attention.
Yeah, I've got a question. Do you prefer working on canvas, or do you like wood paneling, or what do you prefer as far as painting goes?
It just depends on what I'm doing. I wish I had a better explanation for that. I mean, the canvas, it will absorb. It seems to absorb the paint more, whereas the board, it seems to not absorb the paint as much. So you can get these different surface qualities, and I feel like I can get more textures and build my paint up more with wood, but with a canvas, maybe when it absorbs the paint more, that can be a good thing as well. I mean, I think it worked well with this piece, with the acrylic. I don't know if it were oil, if it would have worked as well.
I have a question. I'm not an artist, so this could be strange. I like the skies in that painting and that painting. What influenced you, or why did you choose to do it that way?
This one, it's Van Gogh, but also I love Emil Nolde a lot. He's in German Expressionism, so he does all these big sky paintings. So yeah, I always found the sky very beautiful and very, very dreamy. So that's something that I always try to incorporate. I always try to have a large, usually my compositions landscape, they'll have like a large sky, and I'll try to have a lot of movement, things going on in the sky.
In the top, the sky is kind of whimsical, but and is the rest of it kind of realistic, or what? And it's kind of one versus the other. I don't know why.
Oh well, it's post-impressionism, so it's Van Gogh. It's abstract in that it's a distortion of reality. So it's based off of reality, but it uses these intense colors and simplifications, and part of it honestly is that I have terrible my eyesight. I have astigmatism in both of my eyes, so I see the world very flat, and it's challenging for me now. People have studied this. It makes it easier to like draw and paint like at the beginning level because you already see things like in this flat way. But then as you advance, you can't really see the details or depth as well. So it becomes kind of a handicap at that point. So that's a not so good reason, I guess.
How big of a town did you come from?
Well,
You came from,
Canal Winchester. So when we moved there in 1983, there wasn't even a grocery store. It was a very small, isolated farm town. People who the historical society told me that it used to be very inclusive. So to even be able to buy a house there, you had to know somebody. That wasn't my family's experience. My dad was from Upper Arlington area. My mom was from Lancaster area, so it made sense to buy this house that was kind of halfway. So that's why they chose the house. And then my dad, my grandfather, he lived in Upper Arlington, but he bought this farm property in Southern Ohio, and my dad really looked up to him. And it was kind of like this old Italian thing of owning property, and that's why they chose that property. But getting back on point, so now it's considered a city. And in fact, as a teacher, a lot of the kids that I work with are actually more inner city type kids, which would be hard to believe if you were telling me that when I was in high school. But yeah, a lot of it's very urban now, and I work with a lot of inner city type kids actually.
I think that's amazing that it kind of came full circle to teach there after doodling when you should have been.
Oh yeah, it's completely surreal. I never. Well, I guess in the back of my mind, because I was fortunate to have those art teachers and who they really encouraged me, and I always really look forward to art class, and that was really the legacy for them to want to hire me as an art teacher. But at the same time, yeah, I wasn't a good student. I never liked going to school, but when I walked into that classroom for the first time as a Saturday morning art student, it was like this whole other world. I mean, it was like Times Square or something. Like everyone there, they looked so cool to me, and they had like all this elegant dress, and they were creative, and all of a sudden they were encouraging me to be creative, and I actually enjoy going there. It was at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I wanted to go there. I didn't want to sleep in. You think I want to sleep? Most kids don't want to sleep in. I was up and I was ready to go, and I never missed one. And I had all these friends that I made there, and we would exchange phone numbers, and I have all these stories I can tell you about that. So it really changed my life for the better. I really wanted to go to school there later, but I had to get that worked out first. But yeah, I think it's a good thing that I went to OUL first and had that more traditional college experience, because I really thought that the quality of the academic classes was a lot better, to be perfectly honest. And then Sean Endo, I think he was the right person for me to study with at the time. That the style that he taught me, how much I took off of that, and just that, and the will that I had to come back. I mean, I actually I feel like I created some of my best work then. I was even able to exhibit it at Getaway Gallery and sell it. And when I actually started going to art school, I kind of feel like I had to take a step back, actually, especially with the workload, and so I felt like it actually kind of slowed me down in a way, because at the community college I had like 3 or 4 classes. So it was easy for me to work and go home and be in my studio and make more work. But as a CCAD student, especially since I was waiting tables at the time, it was just like you go to school and go to work and then stay up all night and then get back up and do it again. And so that was a lot of my experience as a CCAD student. Well, thank you for coming. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate everyone being here. And,
Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome.